Before the story truly begins, it's worth a moment to pause and breathe. Because what follows isn't just a series of events. It's a collision of time, memory, and choices, the kind that remind you how fragile life's quiet moments can be, how one unexpected knock can shift everything you've carefully arranged into a new, uncertain rhythm. That night, the small Ohio neighborhood had already surrendered to darkness, the kind of soft, trembling quiet that felt almost alive, as if even the wind moved carefully reluctant to disturb the fragile stillness that had settled over the streets where lamplight pooled gently over empty sidewalks, and the occasional rustle of leaves was the loudest sound to break the silence. Inside one modest home, Emily Carter, alone for years after raising her child, had just switched off the living room lamp, allowing shadows to fold neatly into the corners. Familiar companions in the routine of her life, a life shaped by both absence and the small comforts she had learned to treasure. Until the knock came sharp, sudden, and so startling in the hushed calm that it made her heart lurch violently, a sound that seemed both impossible and intimately familiar, a summons from somewhere between memory and longing, and she froze, hand hovering near the light switch, pulse racing, her instincts warring with disbelief. Because no one came knocking at this hour anymore, not since the world had shrunk to the size of her own careful existence. And yet the second knock arrived quickly, firmer this time, almost hesitant, carrying a rhythm that echoed in a place deep within her chest, stirring a tension she couldn't immediately name, a dangerous cocktail of fear, surprise, and a glimmer of hope she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. And as she stood there in worn blue pajamas, hair loosely tied, faint reflection mirrored in the darkened hallway glass, she considered ignoring it, letting it pass, pretending she hadn't heard. But something inside nudged her forward, past logic and caution, toward the door and toward whatever had come to find her. Memories crashed in unbidden, laughter spilling through rooms long emptied, small footsteps echoing in her mind, the carefree version of herself who used to embrace life without question. And when her hand finally rested on the door handle, the weight of years pressed against her fingertips. A hesitation born of countless nights alone, and the recognition that nothing in her world was quite as predictable as it seemed. Yet slowly, deliberately, she opened it, and there he was, Daniel, her son. A travel bag slung over one shoulder, exhaustion etched into his features. Older, yes, but unmistakably him, every line in his face, a map of the time they had lost. And for a heartbeat, silence stretched between them, compressing years of distance into a moment of fragile recognition. Till instinct overpowered hesitation, and Emily pulled him close, holding him as if letting go could erase the months and miles. While he returned the embrace with equal intensity, inhaling the scent of home, the faint reassurance of familiarity, before words found their way into the charged quiet. "I didn't mean to surprise you," he murmured, voice careful, almost apologetic, and she, only allowing herself the smallest smile, whispered back, "I'm just glad you're here," and together they stepped inside. The house both unchanged and irrevocably altered, softer, quieter, shaped by years of careful routine instead of chaotic life, yet the unspoken tension lingered in the air. A nervous flutter in Emily's stomach that Daniel noticed too. In the way her smile faltered just slightly, the way her eyes lingered on the living room as if checking for something unseen, and he asked lightly, "Were you going to bed?" Setting his bag down, curiosity threaded through the casualness of his tone. And Emily hesitated, answer caught between truth and comfort. "Just a moment too long," she offered, her voice steady enough to pass as casual, but betraying the undercurrent of anticipation she couldn't quite suppress. And then the soft scrape of a chair against the floor, subtle but deliberate, drew Daniel's attention immediately, his brows knitting in silent inquiry as Emily felt the surge of a different kind of fear. The weight of years and choices converging in the narrow hallway, because moments before, she had been sitting across from someone she thought had been erased from her life, someone whose presence now collided with her son S in a space she thought was fully her own. And she gestured for him to follow, each step a careful negotiation between anxiety and inevitability, mind flashing back to the message she had almost ignored earlier. The one that reopened a door she believed locked forever until they reached the edge of the living room, and Daniel's bag shifted as he paused, taking in the sight before him, stiffening at the recognition that the past was no longer past, because there, near the window, bathed in the pale glow of the streetlight, stood Michael Reynolds, the man from Emily's history. Time marked gently on his face, but not enough to disguise the unmistakable familiarity, and in that instant, Emily understood with clarity that the night had slipped entirely beyond her control, that the delicate equilibrium of her life had been disrupted. By timing, by memory, and by the unspoken threads of connection that had always lingered beneath the surface. Daniel's gaze flitting from the man to his mother. Uncertainty etched into his features, not anger, not fear, but the raw, open question of how the past and present could coexist in a single frame. And Emily felt the oppressive weight of what she had never planned to explain, the truths she had kept tucked away, now pressing insistently against her chest, demanding acknowledgement, and with a careful clearing of her throat, she stepped forward, voice gentle but deliberate. "This is someone from my past," each word chosen to balance honesty with restraint. While Daniel listened, perceptive, reading what wasn't said as much as what was. And Emily was struck by both pride and apprehension at his capacity to absorb complexity without judgment, while Michael, respectful and measured, contributed only the words necessary, never lingering, never imposing. And yet his presence alone made the air fragile, like glass poised on an edge. Every second pregnant with the possibility of fracture or reconciliation, and Daniel, weighing what he saw against what he knew of his mother, offered a tentative smile, patience rather than confrontation. And in that quiet act, Emily felt something she hadn't anticipated, a fragile, trembling hope. The sense that even after years of absence and unspoken history, life still had the capacity to surprise, to demand presence, to force connection. And in that long, heavy pause filled with shadow and light, questions and unspoken truths, she realized the knock on her door hadn't merely interrupted the night. It had demanded that she confront everything hidden in the corners of her life. That the past and present coexist in a single impossible moment, and that perhaps, just perhaps, the next chapter, fragile though it was, might still be shaped by understanding, patience, and the tenuous threads of love that had endured all this time.